Welcome everybody to the SGBL podcast. I'm here with my good friend in the community, Emily. Emily, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Emily, what I think a lot of people who've been in our server since the beginning know you already. And you're actually the most important people, in my opinion, for the reason for our growth in our server. Talk about how, you found us in the first place and, what's it been like since you've been here.
Yeah. I'm 90% sure it was just a plug in the DL uh Discord server, and I just kind of clicked on it randomly. I was looking for a new league at the time. I kind of was just in the realms of finishing up the playoffs in OBS, where I lost in the finals, unfortunately, and I just kind of wanted to get back out there and kind of try run it back, And so I joined your server, and it was pretty comfortable right away. Like, we had people I got along with, and they're like Frubbles, and I had like our joke flirtation ship for a bit. That was funny. I thought that was a great bit. And then I talking to you and Adam, who was really helpful with stuff. I think it was great that like it was the first time I've been in a draft server since like way back in Gen 6, where it felt like the people in there were kind of like friends.
Yeah, I think that was again, we try to cultivate a server in that sense, and I like hearing that from people since I personally try to, talk to each person who does join, as much as possible and try to, get them acclimated to us and everything of the sort. But I remember early on because we just created the Discord server at that point, like a week before we actually like started promoting. We just created it, and then you're like constantly messaging me stuff like, "Hey, you have notifications on for everyone on everything. Hey, you should probably like fix this up. Oh, we have access to like your announcements." And I'm like, "Wow, I really
Yeah.
suck at this."
No, it happens, but it's like that's just kind of a thing I bring, being playing draft on Discord since Gen 6, being like a huge boomer. So like I've been in a lot of draft leagues, and a lot of draft league Discords, and like at first it was a very different experience from how it kind of is now, where like everything, you have application process, you have
Mhm,
announcements of coaches, you have like different divisions. Back in
mhm.
Gen 6 when I first started, it was like in the wake of the UCL and stuff like that. It
Yeah.
was, you go to draftleague.com, you join a Discord server, and the first 16 people to join are the coaches.
Yeah, we tried to. So for me, it was I had a couple of years of experience, or nearly 2 years of experience in draft league when we started up. So for me, it was I knew things that I wanted and things that I was interested in. And funny that you mentioned that you came from OBS because I think I was there for their first season actually.
Heard it
And
was a disaster.
I mean, I would say for myself, whatever I was all right with everything. It was fine. I didn't draft a good team, so I was kind of more disappointed in that. But I would say, like, I remember looking at them, they were able to get like 100 applicants within their 3 or 4 week period. And I remember thinking, like, oh, I think we could probably, because of that, though, I thought maybe we can get a decent amount of applications for our first season. And obviously, you were one of the first people to join. And yeah, I didn't think we would get the reception we got because we were so new and everything, but we ended up getting like 60 something apps that first and within those first like 3 days. And that was like very shocking to me. 'Cause I was just like, oh crap, we're actually gonna run this potentially. And you talk about coming from there, but you also talk about how it was early in Gen 6 when you started and talk a little bit about your experience into starting into Draft League. Like how did you get into it in the beginning? What was your inspiration for it? And, talk about that.
Yeah, I mentioned like the UCL, which was like kind of someone whose name I won't mention draft league along with like Mo and Shady and stuff like that. But at the time I was a big Patters fan, like watching his Let's Plays, and I had no experience with competitive whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then, one day all of a sudden I see, UCL season 1. I watched like 3 or 4 games of that, and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. I love this. I am
Mhm.
going to try to do this myself. And I looked up just Pokemon Draft League on Google, and the first thing that comes up was the terrible, in my opinion, draftleague.com or draftleague.org or whatever it was back in the day, where like they had like a weird drafting system on their website, and like, but everyone kind of went to Discord anyway.
Mhm.
And so I joined a few different leagues. They all kind of flamed out early. It was kind of whatever. I was a total novice at competitive. I remember like trying to learn the basics of competitive going onto the OU ladder with no experience whatsoever. And
Mhm.
then my opponent clicks knockoff on my Violet Azumarill, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, the description makes it sound weird.
So that was
But yeah,
your
no,
early experience in that.
yeah. When I got into draft, I was a little bit more used to things, and I kind of at least knew the basics of how the game worked. But like,
Mhm.
it took me a bit to get acclimated and get like actually pretty good at the game. And I think the first league that stuck was a little league that was heavily inspired by the UCL called the USL, and it was with like a few friends. Like it was a
Mhm.
12-person league, I think. Everybody
Mhm.
played everybody, like 11-game season, I think. And the first season of that, I started out like 2-4, and I was like, okay, this is kind of the norm. I suck at this game. Then I won my last 7 games, and I made the playoffs for the first time in a
Yeah.
draft league. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. And that group, of coaches in that league stayed together for 5 or 6 seasons, and it was a small, tight knit league. I never really went outside of the circle of those friends, basically, but I have a lot of fond memories of it. And just coincidentally, one of the coaches from it just joined the TBA, which I run. And like, I was like, "Oh, are
Yeah.
you that person?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's me." I'm like, "What? Small world."
Really small world this community is, and anytime I see someone that I recognize and they join our server even now, it's like, oh, cool. Let's definitely chat it up. And I enjoyed like seeing people join our server and trying to be a part of it in one way or another. And it's funny how it is a small, tight knit community in the sense, Pokemon may be this super big franchise, but this community of Draft League is really not that big as a whole. So it's kind of
It's
funny
getting
to see
bigger.
like it definitely is. I think I want to say around Gen 7 or Gen 8 probably when they took out the timer. I think because of that on YouTube it became a little bit slow, like it stunted the growth quite a bit because a lot of the
Yeah,
bigger names on YouTube
yeah,
stopped playing it.
that was when I was not
And
really playing draft. Coincidentally, not because of the
yeah,
timer, because I didn't really play Wi-Fi, but it was. I remember seeing like people talk about, oh, draft is kind of dead, and I'm like, well, that
yeah.
sucks. I kind of liked it back in the day as a grip, and then Gen 9 came out, and like the first thing I did was, this takes a little bit of backstory, but my favorite
Talk
Pokemon since
about
Gen 2 has been Teddy Ursa, right?
it.
And for
Yeah, obviously.
over for like almost 20 years, being a Teddy Ursa fan was suffering. There was no love for this Pokemon. There was no nostalgia bait. There was no
Mhm.
anything. And then we get Ursa Luna in Pokemon Legends Arceus, and I'm excited about Pokemon again. And I'm like, as soon as this Pokemon is in the game, I am going to play Pokemon again.
Mhm.
And then I did that. And I joined. I couldn't get into leagues at first because no one remembered who I was. No one, because I hadn't played in a whole generation.
Mhm.
Everything was like big leagues with multiple with applications and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I had trouble getting in anywhere, and luckily I got into one of the divisions in the OBS just
Yeah.
off of an old replay, and
Mhm.
it worked out. And I've kind of had fun with this generation a lot more than I did in like early Gen 8 or late Gen 7.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's all worked out.
Yeah, I would say I remember early on for myself and looking for draft leagues, I struggled getting into leagues. I was like the person who would constantly replace people in leagues. And that was the way I was like developing my name or whatever in the community. I
That's
just
the
kept
way to do
replacing
it.
people. And I just kept replacing teams and leagues because I could never be a part of a draft from the get go. And eventually one league that I replaced someone, they started the next season right away, was a part of that draft and they closed down in the middle of the season, which ended up being
Mhm.
such a norm for a lot of these teams I took over, where I would take over 2, 3, 4 games, and then the league would just shut down. And I remember being super
Yeah,
frustrated with that. But that is like people see it all the time with draft leagues. It's people don't run it right or people don't put in the effort into running it, and you get some of this. Oh, league randomly decides to shut down, or they don't operate, and people don't care, and everything. So that was like one of the big like inspirations for us, where it was, oh, let's not do those things. We won't run anything really new or different. You know, we're going to just run this properly, essentially.
Yeah,
At
and
least
you've
the best
done
of
great with
our
that.
ability. Yeah,
Like,
very
I
we are
think
very fortunate.
consistently active, consistently like helpful. I think like I kind of joked about it a bit at the beginning of the server, but like every single person that would join, you'd be like, "Hey, how'd you find us?" And I'm like, and like it was funny, but it was also just really nice because you are like making an effort to like connect with these people who are joining instead of just kind of being like, "Hi, did you apply?"
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. How it is. I'm someone who genuinely care if someone like introduced me or talked to me when I joined or whatever. But I did want to make sure that since we were new, I did want people to like be involved with. One of the things that you see is when people are engaged, they're going to be more active with server. They're going to talk more, and ideally bond the relationships between people and everything. Like you and Frubbles, you mentioned, had a funny bit and everything early on in season one, and that was one of my regrets. Actually, was not rigging the schedule to make you two fight each other. I
I know we still have not played each other in any draft ever. I don't think so.
That's so fun. If we get you guys in our next season, if you play, we're definitely gonna. If you're in the same division and everything, we're definitely gonna rig that one.
All right,
I'm already all about
I'll
rigging
hold you to
certain.
that.
Yeah, we did it. Actually, we did it in our last lower tier Ubers division. Which spoilers, or you know, here's a bit of a reveal for everyone who doesn't know. Not Circle. Super Bench and Ty the Guy. They're two young men or kids that have YouTube channels, and I kept randomizing the schedule thing until they had a matchup against each other. I was just
I
like,
don't.
we're gonna have
That's
these
cool. I
two
mean,
play.
that's
And the
hype.
thing
That
was, I
generates
yeah,
hype.
and I told them, and I was like, I told them even before they played that week. I was like, guys, let me know when you play, like the live part of the game, and so I could like looking for it, and I'll promote the video like also, but outside of them just posting it in the server, and neither remembered to tell me when they were playing, and I didn't
Oh
realize or
no.
whatever. But my idea was I wanted the live chat of their games because they just essentially screen record. I wanted that game to be really live in the chat, and I wanted to be in that chat to like kind of rile people up,
Mhm.
people going on days to watch the videos. They were gonna see just a bunch of people pop off for play, and it was just the kid's eye. He ended up bringing a lot of like super trolly weird things, and it was just like, man, this is funny. I had like 10 people in there just going crazy for things, and each of their videos would have been like kind of funny also at the same time. But that was like Super Bench's like now it's not, but at the time it was like far and away his most viewed video still. And I was like so happy for him for that. And I was really happy for Ty, and to see both of them have good success on their videos was like awesome. And but I was so upset with them because I was like, man, I could have made this a little bit better too. So but that was like the one rig I've done so far. I regret not rigging you folks because you guys have the lesbian relationship and flirtation.
Yeah,
That would have been a good match
we're
because
the
both these
two
top
resident
ladies.
mhm. we both we're the two resident
The two
lesbians of the
resident lesbians.
SGBL. There's more, I think. I think I'm not sure. There might be more. I'm not sure, but
Now,
anyway,
yeah.
like we are the mascot lesbians of the SGBL.
Oh, absolutely. And you both had really good seasons on top of it, which is always
Mhm.
cool to see. It's always cool to see girls in the community, accepted, not really deal with the crap that I think sometimes would deal with a little bit more maybe early on.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And
Like I think
obviously,
for me, it was like having other like queer, gay, friends, whatever, people in the community. In Gen 6, that was just not a thing I ever encountered. And then, I come back to the draft community like 3 or 4 years later, and like I talk to Frubbles. There's like YouTubers like Addison, who's great in her Discord server, and there's just like a really cool community of like queer draft players, and that's awesome to have. I think it's unthinkable to me, 5-6 years ago in Gen 6. I don't know how long ago Gen 6 was, to be honest with you. 10 years now? Jesus.
Really long
And like
time if you think
SGBL has
about it.
been
It
a
really
really
is like
cool
about 10
space.
years
Just
ago
like,
or so, right?
yeah. Mhm. Yeah, but SGBL's been a really cool space for that, just because,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
even though
again,
you joked about it during, like, Pride Month and stuff, but, like, you had the channel for us to talk, and it was fun. It was just a nice show of appreciation for things.
yeah, I think the joke, not the joke, because initially it started off as
It
a
can be a joke.
joke
It's
of
fine for it to be
because
a joke.
because it was you, I forgot, oh my god, Eve, I think it was, and Troubles popping off in the general chat while I was trying to talk to people coming in,
Yeah, no. Mhm.
and I was like, these people to just like to not these people as like, oh, the lesbians or the
Yeah,
gays in the community or not.
I get
It
it.
was just youth to get the hell away somewhere else I could talk to people.
The
It was so
quarantine
funny.
for the, like,
And
chat
again, within a month
spam.
or whatever. And the joke was, yeah, yeah, exactly. I needed to. It was hard to talk to new. I was just like, everyone, I'm really trying to like feel acclimated, and all they see two, three popping off on each other and gassing each other up and everything. And I was like, it's wonderful, but not now. So it
Yeah.
was a funny joke, and then we had the why we can't wait to nuke panel at the end of the month, and then what
Yeah,
we
that
ended
was
up
the
doing
joke,
was now
and
it's oh my god, I think now
a
oh
very
my god,
detailed name.
what
It's a
the
very
new name
it's Wholesome
now?
Channel. Yeah, it's a long name.
Yeah, I think
Wholesome
dude,
channel
we have
mainly
we have
for
a
gays, but
couple.
also for everyone. Just leave Badram alone still. Thank you. Is it Badram or Badram?
Yeah, Byram.
Oh, really? That is awesome. I
Yeah,
would never have guessed that pronunciation.
yeah,
Is that why you don't like people calling
that
you Badge?
it's
Got
definitely
it.
Badge is very spoilers for everyone. Badge, I don't like it because it sounds too much like a different word that starts with a V, and
Yeah,
and also is not
understandable.
actually the correct pronunciation of the name. So I really dislike it. But Byram is fine. B is fine. I don't mind any of that. Again, Badge
Okay,
is
yeah.
not the end of the world. I'm not like that crazy. I just like it, but it is what it is. It's a
The B
funny
and
joke.
V are
But
like
Byram
next
is
to
the
each other on the keyboard.
pronunciation.
The
Dude,
B
it's
and V are like next
ironic.
to each other on the keyboard too. So like people just
I know,
accidentally
and then
type
you
it
have
and just
yeah, and it's much like Badge for those who couldn't pick up on it. So,
yeah.
uh, no, I know
Yeah,
that channel has transformed quite a bit.
I
Yeah.
think this is
So
just
I
a
was gonna say,
cool community with like the. I was gonna go back to season 1 and talk about like Palafin because I want to talk about Palafin. I feel like that's my Pokemon of
oh my
destiny almost.
goodness, what a no,
I was cooking
that
with Palafin in season
Mon fit
1.
you really well. No, you popped
Yeah,
off again. I think
I
that
was
was
I
one
was
of those
cooking with
Mon.
that. Like,
Yeah, talk about season one a little bit. How did you like your team for our Natdex season one, and what were some of the surprises or things that, good or bad, or some of the, talk about your play maybe overall. 'Cause you had a really good team into the semis. You
I think I played
you performed very
poorly
admirably.
overall though. Like I
I
think
don't
like I
know.
performed below what I feel like I'm capable of. You know,
You see,
'cause I feel like it was my best. I
you
still
say we've
think
had
that's
these.
my best team.
I understand that, right? But at the same time, it also crediting some of the other players at the same time. Not that you're trying to, but people prep,
Right.
right? It's one of those. I say sports all the time, and one of my old coaches say this: this other team is good. They all also watch film. They also are trying to
Mhm.
prep, prep for you. You can't just
I give
expect it
full
to be
credit
easy
to
as it's on the white.
mm, full credit to
You're
Hero
gonna
who
say
like
you
beat
give
me in the
full credit.
semifinals. I give full credit to Hero especially who beat me
He
in the
came up with a really
semifinals
good
because like that was
game
just
plan for that matchup.
yeah. Like it was an
Mhm.
awful matchup for him, and he just outplayed me at every step of the game. And like that is a huge amount of respect for him. I'm gonna beat myself up a little bit for not playing better, but I also give him respect at the same time while like appreciating what he did, but also wishing I had done better. If that makes sense.
No, I get it. I think we all want to always play our best, and if we think we have a good matchup, we do expect to win it as better players. At the same time, if you guys played, 10 times just due to the matchup itself, you probably win that match way more than he would have game, right? And he
Yeah,
thought of just the
exactly.
perfect game plan for one game that it wouldn't work, 10 times in a row. It's a game plan that would work for that time you played. And we all, and sometimes I just say shake their, that's what I say. Sometimes when someone plays better than you, it's shake their hand, tell them good game, and, more that loss because it's just like, especially when you have a really fun,
Mhm.
it's so pressing to lose. I had a
It
Palafin team
is.
also that I lost with in the first round due to hacks. Well, a lot due to hacks. And that was a team that I was ready to win the whole championship with. I was on a huge winning streak to finish the season. I was like on a 6 or 7 game winning streak after starting off 2-2. And I mixed up the team. I added Pelipper, had Palafin with Terra Water, and I was like, all right, we're popping off every game now, and didn't lose a game, and then lose a first round game, And I was so pissed off. I was like, man, this is so unfortunate because this mon is so much fun to play with. I brought so many different sets on it. You know best using in
Oh,
multiple leagues. Talk about Palafin a little bit. How have you used it and why has it been almost, in my opinion, your signature mon this gen?
it's just almost everything in the game. There is a Palafin set that beats it somehow, some way. Like there can be combinations of teams that Palafin can't beat for sure, but like basically every Pokemon, there is something in that Pokemon's toolkit that it can use to beat it. Like I had
Mhm.
the sub citrus acrobatics Palafin for the Chestnut, which in theory is a perfect counter to a Palafin, but like sub citrus
Yeah,
acrobatics beat it.
yeah, I think that was in our season, right?
It was in your season, the first game of the season actually. Frubbles was the mastermind behind that set too. Shout out Frubbles.
She
And
beast. She is so good.
yeah, she's brilliant at Pokemon, honestly. I also had like I this was definitely me getting lost in the sauce of it, but the tickle Palafin to beat Dondozo rather than like bulk up because I didn't think about the fact until afterwards, until in the LGA where I also used it and got into playoffs. Um,
Mhm.
but Grass Knot just blows Dondozo away. Why did I need tickle? Well, that was just funny, but like, why did I try tickle? Why was that my answer to Dondozo?
Sometimes we get in our own heads and we just overthink things. Sometimes we'll see like a move, especially on Palafin, all of its physical moves kind of just break teams. And then it's like, oh, I just have to beat this one mon. I don't want to remove my physical moves, so I'm just gonna run Tickle to fix that problem. And it's just like
Right.
sometimes there's way easier answers with that mon. Yeah, I think I remember myself when I ran it for that season, whatever amount of games. I think it was like 9 games or 10 games or whatever it was in the regular season. I think I brought band quite a decent amount, especially with Terra Water in the rain. That became like just a cheat code, but
Mhm.
I still think I like ran band with special coverage. I ran bulk up taunts. Like obviously I ran all these different sets. Like I ran it bulky one week just as a pivoter, and it still got a couple kills in the game. It was it was such a fun mon to play with. Its stats are obviously huge.
Right. And like
And
I think
oh my
one of the
goodness.
biggest things with that Pokemon is offsetting that lost momentum of that one turn before you
Mhm,
get it going, which is why like flip turn's kind of the easy way out with that, but like making aggressive doubles to get it in and then get it out, making like
mhm,
sometimes just leading with it. Hey, saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to lose this first turn. but I'm going to have a 680 BST monster in the back for the rest of the game or whatever it is.
Dude, I remember looking at that mon before, like when when the data mine leaks come out and they
Mhm.
mention what its ability is. I thought its ability was it changes back every time it switches out.
Back and forth, yeah, or something like
Yeah,
that.
so I was thinking to myself, like, man, this one's not going to be that good. It didn't
No,
say
it
that at
is.
all or nothing, but I
It's
was
just
just
a
like, the way that's how Mons balances things. Like, they don't make it just super broken for that one switch. It's always there's a cost. That
they
Mons
they
cost
they
was
didn't do it this time.
not that high,
It is one turn of
honestly.
momentum for like a broken Pokemon in the back of your team that has a 60 base power priority move for no reason. That's also boosted by like punching glove and stuff. So like it's a really cool Pokemon. And I think the
Mhm,
special sets are cool. I think the like mixed sets are awesome. And I think like it
mhm.
just does everything I've ever wanted the Pokemon to do. I think like prior to
I
that, I think my best Pokemon was like a Mega Medicham, which was like a Pokemon that I used in my first like full draft league, the one that I made playoffs in. And that
yeah,
was like a Pokemon that I excelled with because I guess I just kind of big buttons make me happy, I guess.
same thing with me. I sometimes I like the complexity of Mon sometimes. Like when I've used Dragapults recently, I remember having so much fun building. It's when I get into building Mons and I really start wanting to invest things like appropriately. Dragapult ended up being one of those Mons for me where it's just like even though it didn't have Terra and in my opinion almost doesn't hit as hard as you would like, it was just a mod that I had so much fun building its like support sets with every single week. I was just like, oh, if I run like 84 defense EVs and like 120 SPDEF and like 80 or 60 like HP, this lives all the hits I need, and then I can
Mm.
burn stuff, U-turn, and do all this stuff. I'm like, wow, no wonder why people say this mon is so good because,
It
and
is.
I was like,
That's
not the offensive sets. The offensive sets almost like aren't it on it. It's
yeah,
almost like, oh,
absolutely.
it's all the other stuff. This mon is so crazy, and I was just like, yeah, I get why this is 20 points now.
Mm.
But early
Yeah,
on
I
when I used
totally.
Dragon Ball, yeah. Oh, go.
I know. I was gonna say like I get in that with a lot of Pokemon where like I'm never sure if I like it when a Pokemon's like that or if I dislike it because like I remember it's weird how I started with the first team back in Gen 9 had Ursaluna on it because that's the
Uh-huh.
whole reason I started playing draft again.
Yeah.
But it's funny now the kind of the perception of that Pokemon now is that it's kind of one dimensional, but to me with that first season with it,
Mhm.
it felt like an endless possibility sprawled before me. Like it has all these moves, do all these different things, and I kind of got lost in this sauce with it a lot. Like just kind of like weird stats that don't really do much of anything, but also are like really
Mhm.
complex for no reason. And like,
Mhm.
I think sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I'm trying to avoid that. Now I'm currently using Iron Valiant in two different
Mhm.
drafts, and I feel like I'm going out of my way to not bring like weird stuff that doesn't actually do anything.
Mhm. I remember I'll say this with Iron Valiant on the team I had in our first season. Um, I had I essentially just had a 7 mon team. I had 3 mons that almost would never come to a matchup. So I always said this, unless Valiant had an obvious sweeping like set in some way, I always built it last. I was like, let me see what the rest of my team does, and then I'll figure out Valiant at the end because it's probably the best mon or one of the 2 or 3 best mons in the format.
Yeah.
Um, but it was just like, oh, that mon. I literally would like put it on the team and then move it to the very end. I was like, yeah, this mon's going to the end. But speaking of Ursa Luna, going back to that, Dim and I were in a duos like league. We replaced the team. Unfortunately, couldn't make transactions, but when we had the team, we had Ursa Luna on there, and we ended up bringing like bulky sets to just like sponge hits for us the whole season
Yeah, it's
because we
great at that.
couldn't.
It's
We were unable to bring it as offensively as we wanted, but at the same time, bulletproof on it made it like completely hardwall things. It was like hysterical. We're looking at Iron Moth, and we're like, "Oh my god, this thing can't touch us at
you
all,
know,
even if it's flex." It was the funniest thing in the world. We're like, "Holy crap! Like, what is this mon? It doesn't make sense." It's such a. It was so one of my favorite mons to use in drafts so
it's
far,
very
and Gen
fun.
9
Yes.
is amazing.
I
I
think
like mons that are
the
very.
new one is great too. Blood Moon, we have it on the Breaking Gems team, and it's a
Oh,
monster. It's a demon.
dude, Blood Moon. It's funny because Blood Moon, when we were all looking at its stats initially, and so many weird leaks with it and everything, and then see what it had and stuff, it was like, this thing is not that great until we saw like it actually got Calm Mind, it got Vacuum Leap,
Moonlight,
it got Moonlight. Wait a minute, wait, this has recovery? Why? And it was like, hold on, this
recovery and
mon.
priority, and like a move that is slightly weaker, but like unimmunity Gigaton Hammer with an actual attack stat to back it up. Like,
Exactly, and it's just like, whoa, wait a minute, this mon is. There's a reason this mon got. I think it got banned right from OU.
it
I'm
did,
not big on
yes.
the lot.
I was a little surprised. I laddered for that, and I almost got Rex, but I was laddering on the team that was very weak to booster Iron Moth.
Yeah.
And for the whole beginning of the ladder, I didn't face it at all. And then I get like I think like 77 GXE, which is like 3 short
Mhm.
of the Rex,
Awesome.
and every team has booster sub Terra Fairy Iron Moth on it, and I just get dumpstered like 8 games in a row, and I'm like, all right, guess I'm just leaving it to fate,
Yeah, I think.
because like I think King Gambit not getting banned wrecked the curve a bit. So I look at Ursulina Bloodmoon, I'm like, this
Yeah,
is not more broken than King Gambit.
yeah, King Gambit. Oh my god, I love King Gambit too. Jeez, talk about. I personally love this gen. Like in terms
It's
of
fun.
whether people like Terra or not, I'm a fan of Terra, but fine, I get why people aren't. Um,
Mhm.
in my opinion, I loved every mon. I loved how every mon this gen seems to have like a niche or a role or something it's really good at. Obviously, you have all the high end broken mons that got added, but even like the low tier mons in terms of draft, things like
Oh yeah.
Boschtron, things like Spite Ops, like they have legitimate roles in Draft League right now. And they just
Wait,
every single like fully evolved mon outside of like Woke Trio, I think. I think that's like
um,
the only mon that no one really like
Veluza,
uses in draft.
Veluza. No one uses Veluza for
Veluza's
anything.
probably another one. Yeah, Veluza's kind of tricky to use. Maybe in low tier it could be used, but in terms of regular nat decks, yeah, it's a little bit tricky. So yeah,
Mhm.
two water, two water, frail mons don't do anything. But yeah, outside of like those mons, maybe there's a couple more that aren't as usable. But like every single other mon has like a legitimate role, no matter where they're tiered on the dock.
And like, yeah, and there's a lot. There's a lot. Having the numbers. I feel like someone should do the numbers someday. But like, looking at how many Pokemon this gen are like in that like 15 to 18 point range in drafts, like it's got to be a pretty high density of Generation 9 Pokemon in that area. Because you got
I
all
mean,
the booster mons and the like uh, Baxcalibur and Palafin, and it's an absurd amount of Generation 9 Pokemon that are just stacked out the gate.
well, yeah, I mean, just looking at the new mons, like I'm on Cerebi now. Meowscarada is unbelievable.
Mhm.
Skeledirge is like really, really good, especially if you have Terra on Skeledirge allowed. That thing becomes like, and its stats don't even look like special like that. I mean, good stats, but not. You
I mean,
wouldn't say like, oh,
Unaware is a hell of a drug.
oh, super on that mon, especially Fire Ghost. Like it takes advantage of that initial typing, and then it takes advantage of Terra.
It's
Aqua
like
Ball's really good. Like
Unaware,
Oinkologne,
yeah.
Slidops,
Link alone
Low
is
Kick.
okay.
Oh my god,
Low kicks is
it's not even
crazy.
getting. Yeah, it's a super good mid tier mon, a mon that's wherever tiered like 9 to 11, whatever points.
Mhm.
It's super good. Even like Mousehold, like I'm not a fan of Mousehold because I feel
Not
like it just
either.
dies to Rocket Helmet, but even Mousehold has like, you know, a decent niche or whatever.
You can remove hazards against
Arboliva
Golden
with
Go, I believe.
walkability. What was that?
It can I think Tidy Up removes hazards against Golden Go. That's a niche.
Exact. Oh, that is true. It does clear hazards against Golden Go because you don't actually do anything to Golden Go. You just clear the field and boost yourself up. Um, I used Mass Bosta for a game or two, and that one I actually enjoyed quite a lot. It was way better than I thought it was going to be in draft. And
Mhm.
again, super good. Bramblegast.
Yeah,
Bramblegast is now
Ramblegast.
Bramblegast is good. They just got
Power.
Poltergeist.
Yeah, Poltergeist is crazy for it. We have it on the one of the Breaking Gems team.
Mhm.
It's very cool.
Yeah, Claw, Scoville. Just yeah, the Spothros turned. I found the Spothros one of my favorite, like funny, like early draft mons of this. Like people
You
were
had like
tearing this thing at
11
like 11.
points.
Oh my
I
goodness.
had I
I'm
had
looking
Terra Fairy as Spothro out for 11 points in OBS.
jeez, it's how is this mon like I remember when we were tearing our docs and I was like so confused because we put up like 14 or 15, something like that. And someone asked me, was like, "Oh, why is the spot there so high? I see it at like 10 or 11 in other leagues." And I was just like, "Look, other leagues are wrong." I'm not gonna
Yeah,
really
no,
debate that.
100%.
Like I debated like a bunch of other things, but I was like, a spot there shouldn't be 10 or 11. This mon is a broken mon. Tinkaton is really good. Bombardier's whatever, but Palafin's broken. Reverie now just became like really, really, really good.
It's one of my
It's
favorite
decent.
Pokemon, honestly, in this generation, just because it's like I love Pokemon that can run multiple kinds of sets, not just multiple sets, but like it can run like a support, parting shot, toxic spike set, and it can run like a shift gear set. Like they are not like they're totally different kinds of sets, and they can come in different games. It's if you draft a Revavroom, you can almost always find a way to fit it onto your team because it can do different things.
No, I agree. I'm a similar way. I like mons that I'll draft mons that can be one dimensional and sometimes fit a role that I need. But I generally like mons that could do multiple things. Um,
Like I think
again,
that building Pokemon last that kind of type of Pokemon is really cool. Like you mentioned with Valiant, I feel the same way about Clefable, for example.
Mhm.
Clefable is one of their favorite Pokemon, even though that's controversial because people hate Stall. But
I despise the mon.
I just think my favorite thing about Clefable is just like there's like an old football quote where I think I've told you about this before, but like there's an old football quote where it's like a running back talks to his coach and it's like, "Hey, coach, if you need 1 yard, I'll get you 3." And then the coach said, "What if I need 5 yards?" And he says, "I'll get you 3." And
That
that's
was an old
Clefable to me.
that was a line in an old Madden game with John Madden when he does he says this running back it's always with like a slow running back or a fullback. It was like if you need 3 yards, he can get you 3 yards. If you need 4 yards, he can get you 3 yards.
Yeah,
And my
that's
brother and I, we say that to each other anytime we see an NFL game, and a running back on like 3rd and 4 gets 3 yards, and we're like, we just say the line to each other. We're like, this is hysterical. It's
it's a
so
great line, and I think it works for Clefable because it's particular because like I found when I was using it in OBS where it's just like you can avoid getting 2-hit KO'd by almost anything in the game. You cannot avoid getting 3-hit KO'd by almost everything in the game.
but it doesn't need to with its move pool
With
and
its recovery and move pool and just being annoying,
its
it's just
stats. Yeah, its stats don't look good at all. Like it has some of the worst stat line, like looking stat lines. Nothing hits 100. I don't think like its HP is 95, right?
yeah.
So like nothing hits 100. It's not that fast. Doesn't seem that bulky.
The like it's like the the false swipe gaming theorem is like the
Yeah,
Rampardos theorem stuff. It's like the
yeah.
Clefable theorem could be like abilities. It's like abilities are everything for that Pokemon.
And it has a couple really good ones. Unaware is really really good on it.
Or
It doesn't see as much on the ladder, I don't believe.
not on the
Outside
ladder,
of
but in draft it's incredible because it's an incredible safety button and you can put the fake magic guards on it.
oh my god, the booties on the booties on that underwear Clefable.
Mm.
It's hysterical. Yeah, but if we talk about like some of the mons that were like more highly tiered, like obviously King Gambit is getting to the end of the list. Great Tusk, talk about one of like those perfectly built mons. Again, you give mons 570 BST, you can kind of do some
Mm.
nice things with it.
I think
Great
like
Tusk, my favorites that
yeah, I
I've
think
used.
Great Tusk and
Oh my god.
the what's the steel one's name? I can't remember anymore. Iron Threads. I think they're like
Oh,
every like
yeah.
new Pokemon player has this conception of like a Pokemon that's gonna be like an offensive tank where they like max HP, max attack, and assault vest kind of thing. Great Tusk and Iron Threads are kind of that Pokemon in a way. Like, they kind of built that Pokemon, but Game Freak did. Like, mostly Great Tusk, because Iron Treads is a bunch of weird, cool sets it can run. Really fun Pokemon I
Mhm,
wish I could use in a better league. I think I did poorly at it with it in
mhm.
TBA Season 1, but
Yeah. I think your team in your first season of your league was you had good mons that didn't mesh together well. I don't
that
think
was
you
it,
had
and
any.
I didn't figure out a lot of my mons really either. Like, I just didn't really know like what to do with them and on that team. Like,
Mhm,
there's actually like booster. There's actually treads. I misused the hell out of treads. I don't get to ran booster once, and I think booster stats are some of its best options. I don't think I ran like anything but spin on it every week, and that's not the best
mhm.
way to use treads. It's got like a ton of options available to it.
I remember using treads in a team that won a championship. Now that team was a little bit stupid because I had Shed Tail and triple regen on it and 12-point Glow King for some reason. Um,
Is that the
so
Mega Arrow team, or is that a different team?
yeah, that Mega Arrow team. Oh my
That was
god,
the
talk
one
about
that
a
swept me.
yeah, that was a crazy team. But when I used treads that season, I remember it was just like it was a perfect glue to the team, right? Where
Mhm.
even though I had all these regen mons and Tangela obviously is the best low tier mon ever, I had all these mons that like did their had like their roles, but Treads was like so perfect to like perfect defensive stats, perfect like offensive stats that in just enough where I could always pressure things and I could always invest its bulk. Even though its
Mhm.
def stats not overly high, it has just enough HP and you can invest there and do different things. I remember them once on Ubers, he ran like Iron Treads against the Miraidon team. It was like a Salt Fest with 16 as an attack, I think it was. And in order for it to get a booster in terrain for its def stat with an Assault Vest, and it was able to tank a Specs overheat from Miraidon.
That's crazy.
And super dumb. I then thought of the set on his own, and then like a couple weeks later, we saw it on damage calc, and we're like, "Oh my goodness!" I was like, "Then did you think of this on your own? You saw it there?" He's like, "I swear on everything, I did not. I did not even know. I just thought of like Beast Boost back in the day with like Cortana. That's how people would like get the boost they wanted. So he
Yeah.
thought of that. He thought of that concept for treads, and that's how we came up with it. And but apparently, it ended up being a real thing that people started using, and it was like comical. I don't know if it was 16 IVs in attack. I forgot which stat he had to or what he had to lower to 16 IVs, but it was just like, whoa, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I love. That's what I love about the Quark Drive and Protosynthesis ability is just like the ability to kind of customize what the Pokemon does to a certain degree. Like, obviously, some things aren't really getting that. Like, Iron Hands isn't gonna get a speed boost anytime soon, but like
Mhm,
for a lot of Pokemon, they have like pretty balanced stats overall, so you can kind of get whatever you need out of them by how you
mhm.
put their nature, EVs, IVs. And I think
Yeah.
manipulating IVs is especially funny because Timid Kartana is like one of my favorite Pokemon sets of all time. Like, I love that. I've used it every time I've used Kartana in a draft. I have at some point
Mhm.
during the season brought out the Timid Kartana.
Oh, so did I. Cortana was like one of those first mons that I ever used that I was like, oh my goodness, this is like one of my favorite mons. This one's so strong. Look at its attack stat. You know, more I play and better I got. I was like, man, it kind of sucks that this mon only has like 70 base power of attacks.
Yeah,
So
I think like the cool thing with the Timid card especially is just because after a Swords Dance, your attack is high enough anyway. Like,
yep.
you don't need more attack. You need more. You need to be able to switch moves, so you're not getting like locked into bad
Mhm.
moves against like Zapdos or whatever. And you need like to be able to snowball with the speed. So I think that was kind of why I like that set so much. In particular, I think Booster Energy Mons have a similar deal where like you're out here
Mhm.
running like Great Tusk with like no defense EVs, so that the speed can be 1 point higher than its defense and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that's the creative. That's the thing I love about Mons, and I think I like it more in draft for that sense because in draft you could really go super outside box on any individual game,
Hmm?
and you could cook something like that up. Where on the ladder it's harder because you need certain consistencies. to like running. So that's why it's a lot of 252ing stuff. But in draft, you could really go, hey, I in this matchup, I really don't need whatever this much investment. I only need a certain amount. I'll be fine with this. And Cortana, once it gets that +1 speed on that set with ×2 attack, doesn't really need more than that. It's already gonna start snowballing. It's such a strong mon.
Very cool. I think like
Yeah, I was gonna say, mhm, go.
go ahead. No, you go ahead. I didn't. That wasn't a non-starter thought, honestly.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, like, so our league personally has now started to kind of venture out into a lot of different types of formats. Obviously, we're gonna always run our Nat Deck seasons throughout the year, but we do have some of our like fan game, Rad Red Insurgents formats. Obviously, we ran Ubers last season. We also ran mid tier, which was intended to be low tier, but Perturbo had
Turbo got lost in
separated
the sauce.
the most popular format that we've ever had in this league, which is the most funniest thing on the world. And what other formats have you enjoyed playing personally, though, like outside of just traditional Nat decks?
Um, Now they're honestly like with like the fan game formats, I think they're really cool, and I'm like always super impressed by the things that happen in them. But I think
Mhm.
those are just so out of my capabilities because I'm a person who
Oh, yeah.
like half my strength as a Pokemon player is that I just kind of know what every Pokemon does from experience playing a lot of random battles or whatever.
Mhm.
And so you put me in
Yeah.
a scenario where I'm playing against and with Pokemon that I don't know what they do. I'm like scrambling around like a chicken with my head cut off. But like I do think the mid tier
Mhm.
looks fascinating. I think I would not mind if I played a game for breaking gems at some point during the team tour.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I think it looks pretty cool. I played Little Cup a lot, and I love Little Cup. I adore Little Cup to death, actually.
So you're spamming a Teddy Ursa in Little Cup, or is it not
I'm
good? I
not,
have no idea.
unfortunately. It doesn't do anything in Little Cup. It's like it can run like a Toxic Orb quick feet set, but that doesn't really do anything because it's kind
Mhm.
of weak. But yeah, my only championship in any draft league to this day that I don't really even count all that much is a Little Cup draft. Unfortunately, from with like it was like 8 coaches. It was
Mhm.
scuffed as hell. I had like a pawn yard on my team. It was a very cool league, but like it was small, it was
Mhm.
short, and like
Mhm.
I won by I think I hacked with a Deerling, Serene Grace Deerling in the end game and won the finals, and that's my only chip to this day, which feels bad. I'm always chasing that last one. I mean that like quote unquote real one.
I think it's a legit one. I think ultimately draft league is, it can be hard, and I think something Sir Kill kind of about when I spoke with him was getting that first one in a certain format, especially, or as you say, real one. I would assume you're talking about like a Nat Dex or a Paldea Dex
Right,
or
yeah.
a regional format or something. When you get that first one, the next one becomes easier to get, but it is really hard to sometimes get over that first hump of getting that one because it's not just Mons is a game that is already hard enough as is when you're playing against a good player. And you
Mm,
can easily win a championship with your skill set and everything if you played in like a very low, skill gap division. But you have enough experience and you're a talented player where you're not going to play in those divisions at this point.
mm.
So again, is if you won a championship in a really lower end division with a bunch of new players, is that going to feel great? I don't know if it
Right,
will for you.
exactly.
I know it wouldn't. It wouldn't feel great for me.
Wouldn't for
At
me
that
either,
point,
I don't think.
again, you wanna feel like you beat someone. Like when you beat someone who you could respect as a player and who has a good team and they actually know how to invest and prep game, that's like the feeling right there.
Yeah, no, it
And
is.
that's
I
hard.
think
And
like at the end of the day, you're kind of just like accolades, like winning a championship is kind of its own thing. But like if like at the end of the day you want to feel accomplished in what you do, that's the main thing. Like
Mhm.
if you're not feeling accomplished, it doesn't really feel anything. That's why when I like win a game by like hacking someone, even though it's happened to me multiple times, to the point that I feel like I earned that, I still feel
Yeah,
kind of like I kind of wish I'd gotten the chance to win that off my own strength as a player. You know?
I feel you. I'm a similar way in that sense where outside of when I play all them, if I hack Sim, I don't care because no matter what our records are overall, and I think overall I've done better than them in draft as a whole. His record against me is so unbelievably like, even though it's probably close to 50-50, he's won most of our matchups. He just reads me like a book, and he's my favorite rival. He's my obviously my best friend, my brother, and everything. But when I hack Sim, sometimes I tell him, I'm like, I don't give a crap. I don't, even though deep down I hate it still. It's disgusting. Like I won a game against him with hacks once, and I felt so bad afterwards. Like all jokes aside, I felt so bad afterwards because I was like, man, I did not deserve that win at all. I'd rather you have won that game against me because he's the person I root for the most outside of myself. You know, I want him to win more than at this point. I want him to win one more than I want to win one myself. You know,
Right.
um, but yeah, I despise winning with hacks. Is kind of it's disheartening at the same time, especially if you put that time and effort in to only win, and you realize you win only because of that. It's like kind of a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah,
For
it's
I know
not
for my
worse
ego.
than losing that way, but it's better. It's still worse than like just a fair game where you win.
Mhm. Yeah, it doesn't feel like people say hacks balances out always. I'll say it a lot, but it never feels that way for yourself. I feel,
It doesn't.
I feel, I will say, but I will say like one thing that so we talked about like a little bit about like maybe like not feeling good about certain wins or whatever, and we're gonna touch a little bit upon this in a little bit about your league, but for you, what makes a league like? What makes you have the best experience in a league, right? Like, what are the best traits a league can have, and that you've noticed in your experience playing for the last, near I would say decade of Mons,
Oh God,
relatively
yeah.
competitively.
I want to say
So
like I want to say that first draft league was around like 2015, so coming up on 10 years. So
yeah.
and like I think the main thing is like community is just so important for a
Mhm.
draft. And like knowing who you're playing against, having history with them, having like little rivalries and like not real rivalries because it's a game at the end of the day, but like rivalries, quote unquote, and like just having a reason that the game is interesting other than just the like numbers on the screen of like damage calcs and speed tiers and stuff like that. Like having that stuff in the game is just like it makes it so much more fun. Like when I was in that league back in Gen 6, I was talking about USL. It was like 12 people. We
Mhm.
all got along mostly well. I had anger issues at the time. That was its own thing, but like knowing them and having history with them and like knowing their tendencies made games so much more exciting than just playing someone I've never really played before in a game. I think SGBL is getting like
Yeah.
one season deep of like Nat decks and then the side formats and now the team tour. I think like next Nat deck season is gonna pop off, honestly.
Yeah, I'm excited. Again, I don't know how next season's gonna be, numbers wise or anything, nor do I really like I care a little bit, not to the point of I feel comfortable with where we're at. I will say that it has been a nice growth and everything, and I try to implement things that I feel are good in the league. Like one thing I will say, I did one league and when I did win the championship in GPA, the one thing that bothered me about that I loved the team I had. Not being able to beat all them in my two games sucked because I lost to him 0-2 with like a -9 or -10 diff in the two games. And I would have loved to have played him
No.
one more time in a championship for that chance. But the thing that bothered me the most after that game ended at the very end, it was I talked to my opponent a little bit and I got a sort of congratulations from the owners of the league. And they were nice. Like they were nice to me and everything. I'm not saying anything else, but at the same time it was one of them said congrats on the win and then like nobody in the league cared at all. So it's almost like
Mm.
that's that kind of feels like a little empty in a way. Like, it would've been it's cool when you have, like, a season end. Like, I've lost a championship in one of my friend Matt's league, and when I lost that game, I was disappointed I lost. Like, I didn't bring a good team for the matchup ultimately, and I didn't make the reads and everything, but whatever. My opponent played awesome, brought an excellent team. I said kudos to them, but you had so many people there talk about the game afterwards,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
always
like a way
awesome.
better feeling. Dude, that is a much better feeling than, "Oh, game ends, no one gives a crap. Alright, that's it. We'll hopefully see you in our next season," whenever that is, in a couple months or whatever. Like,
Freaking
that
that's
to me
kinda
is a
how
little bit.
yeah. That's why the Little Cup League didn't feel satisfying to me because like there were 8 people in it. By the end of the season, like 3 of them had stopped giving a shit, and then the 4 people in the
Mhm,
playoffs, kind of they as soon as they lost, they were out, and then the person I beat in the finals was really mad about it, so they left the server immediately after the
mhm,
game. And it's like, I just won this league. There's nothing. I feel nothing right now, you know.
mhm.
And then when I got to the
Yeah,
finals in OBS Axie Division,
mhm,
I played horribly. I brought a horrible team. I didn't adapt to
mhm,
the situation because it was a rematch game of a game that I
mhm,
won the first time. But like
mhm.
my opponent played really well and brought great sets and stuff. But people talked about it after the game, and it felt like there was real consequence to what I had just done. You know,
Mhm.
I felt
Yeah,
more in that loss than I had felt during the one win, when there was no one there to care about it.
no, I think that's something that we try to do here, right? Like, part of like doing the weekly awards and stuff like that, and hopefully for our next season, we'll put it in a more video format and a little bit nicer and everything. But part of that was to get people like give people credit for the work that they're putting in week to week. And sometimes
Hmm.
people bring cool things, but it wasn't just talking about the set. It was about putting it in a creative format and stuff. You know, I may not be the funniest person in the world, but I try to put a little bit of comedic like touch to all
They
of
were
those awards
fun.
and
They were
stuff.
A+. I was super inspired by you guys' work in season 1 of
Mhm,
SGBL when I made the TBA.
mhm.
Um, I ended up getting burnt out halfway through the season because like I
You
had a
had a
lot of stuff going on in
lot
real
of
life, and like,
Mhm,
but it was a great. I had so much fun in season 1 of SGBL that I kind of like tried to replicate as much as I could of that
mhm,
season in TBA, and I want to do that going forward as well. But I also realized during season 1 just like
mhm.
how much work goes into that. Like you and Adam did it by yourself basically in season 1 with like I guess like
Yeah.
help from Matt with the doc, but like
Well, yeah,
overall you and
Matt created the doc. We wouldn't have been able to do anything without Matt, so shout outs to him. And
Mhm. But
for
then you
writing up
guys
the
ran
awards,
that
yeah.
by yourself, and me and Gojo kind of tried to just do the same thing with season 1 of TVA, and it didn't work out. It was a lot of work, it was a lot of effort, it was a lot of like watching Pokemon games when I didn't really want to watch Pokemon games, like watching 3 divisions, 12 coaches, so like 18 games a week of Pokemon. That's like not only watching them but like paying close attention to them, seeing like what
Mhm.
happens, seeing the sets. That's kind of draining sometimes, honestly.
Yeah, so
Especially if you're
part of
not
that.
like all there mentally.
Oh, 100%. I think part of that, it was a little bit easier for me with the 3 divisions because I was the one who mostly did the weekly awards, and then Aldem contributed here and there. Like, Aldem would sometimes write stuff up and I would just post it. So there was times that he didn't, like, post something, but he was the one who wrote up certain things for a week. And there's times we made jokes like I lost to a Driftbloom set one week, and then all of them wrote up something really funny about maybe this mon should be banned and yada yada because I lost the matchup and I was posting it. So I was just like writing up this whole thing about how great Driftbloom is and how we should get rid of it completely or whatever. And I'm just like, again, I mean, I was upset I lost the game, right? But ultimately, it's also funnier to. I think ultimately I can make a really. It was better to make a funnier experience out of it, right? Like I
Absolutely,
lost my
yeah.
playoff. I had a real, and I lost my last game of the regular season of SGBL season one, but I lost that game because I brought a mean team. I was 5-2 otherwise. My two losses super close, and I went into that playoffs thinking, oh, winning a championship will be hard in this division, but I legitimately think I have one of the best chances to win. And then I lost my playoff game 6-0.
That's always it takes the wind out of your sails a bit.
But what's it called? No, but here's the thing with that, right? Forget losing the game. The game I lost, whatever we wrote about it. I wrote something simple and funny about losing to Tornadoes, but the person I lost to, Diabetic Rye, another really good dude. He has a league also, right?
Mhm.
So I joined his league recently, and I'm doing it currently. And whenever we have talked, right, he'll some like anytime I start the trash talk with him, he'll mention Tornadoes. I'll mention something about how the weather was bad in my area, or I'll spit a rap bar about something about tornadoes, or something about like how things were poisonous or whatever because of terror poisoned in the game, or like, oh, there's a heat wave in my house. Like, how was I supposed to play? He used heat wave in the game. I just thought of all these different ways to come back, and he's like, I don't know how you're thinking of all these things to say every time we mention this, but
You got all the practice from the weekly awards.
dude, all super a lot of practice. Again, part of it with the weekly awards, but I going into our off season season two that we did of Ubers and all this stuff, I was not going to be able to do those weekly awards. I was like, man, 5 divisions now. This is going to be like this is a lot of games to go through. So I did get help from our mods and stuff, and people. I asked them. We shortened it a little bit. We gave people some flexibility on doing it the way they wanted to. But and then them took on more of that, which was super nice. But it's definitely a ton of work. It's not easy to write those up. I think Shrimp talked about it in his league. He would write those. He would like write them up, and he said, "Dude, I was doing it for one division, and it was hard to stay consistent with it. It's just a lot because you're trying to watch all these games. You're trying to give kudos to people, and don't get me wrong, sometimes there's a little bit of okay, a team won really quickly with a certain broken set, like Palafin 6-0'd right off the bat.
Mhm.
It's kind of easy to then at that point it's you don't watch a lot of the game. And especially if you paid attention to the week, it's like, oh, Palafin won really quickly. So it's like, okay, I don't really have to watch this game too much. I just have to think of something funny to write about Palafin. And
Right.
just like, or if Chi Yu goes off in a week, you don't even talk about Chi Yu really. You talk about a fire goldfish and burning down a city or something like, and you just think of whatever came to my mind. It was talk about everything but the mon itself because it's way funnier to do that than
Yeah.
to do than to write something very specific like, oh, Chi Yu went for flamethrower, then overheat, then dark pulse. That's not
Yeah.
as appealing to read or again. That was the goal, right? It's
I,
super
I I
cool
looked
to get more.
forward to those every single week. It was always a treat to read. You did a great job with them,
I
and
appreciate
like
that.
it was awesome. I love that about the first season of SGBL. It really made it me more invested in the other games happening other than just my own.
That's my favorite thing to hear. I do. It's when I hear people say that to me. That's like I hope to keep that going. It's not again. I feel like it's going to be more difficult. But I was also in another league, Spear Pillar, and seeing them be able to do it. Now they have all their mods and they have a bunch of people who split up that work. But seeing them be
Mhm.
able to do that with more divisions makes me know that I could do this, and we could definitely do this as a team now that our team is growing quite significantly. But we're going to be able to. We just have to figure out a plan of how to go about it. And I'm super excited. I'm really excited for now doing this video formatting of things and kind of learning how to do these interviews and everything and
Mhm.
learning how to edit a little bit. I am still not. I'm a novice at its finest, but I think we have Aldim has some really good ideas, and Aldim's kind of the brains behind a lot of the stuff here. So um,
Yeah.
I'm super excited for the next season. I think the next season is going to be super fun.
I'm very much looking forward to the DLC 2 just for season 2 of like, season 2 proper of SGBL because like I guess you guys kind of retroactively made the off season 2.
It was a full season. It was hard not to call it season
Right.
two. I guess off season
But
would have been more
Nat Deck,
appropriate for like
yeah,
4 games, but
Nat Deck season 2.
yeah. We're gonna have fun with the naming stuff. We always try to. I think I named that low tier division 900 different things over the course of the season too. So like that low tier division start off as low tier and then turn into as long of a name as I could think of. It's like low tier, but not exactly low tier, but it's not quite high tier. It's sort of mid tier, but some of those mid tier mods are not allowed. That's here. So that was like a name I thought of one week, and I was like, we're gonna go with that for the week. but we've settled on mid tier. I think mid tier is the most appropriate name for
Yeah,
it.
I think so too.
And
It's a cool format.
yeah,
I like it.
we're not the first people to do it, but Perturbo really created that from off of pretty much himself, and then I gave a little input here and there, and then when Circle and them started looking at it for the team tour, they they were like, hey, why is this so low? Perturbo, it's not your fault. He was so down on himself for missing certain things, and I'm like,
You
dude,
mixed
you
up.
literally edited like 500 different mons on the tier list from scratch. Like even we had a
Mhm.
template that we used, like a template that we based our doc off of, and then we made edits to everything. But there's a lot of things that don't change in that sense. There's a lot of things like
Yeah.
this mon 17 points. Yeah, it's 17 points. You don't change it. He did
Yeah,
everything
like,
from the ground up, from 0 to 20. So I was like, don't
yeah,
worry about him. Don't be down on yourself. He's like, and he was unbelievable. So
yeah,
kudos
he's
to that.
great. My TBA season 2 doc started as a Paldea deck, so I kind of had to like from memory tier every Nat Dexmon that's not in Paldea decks, and
Oh,
that was
good.
a chore. But like, and it does feel bad 'cause I missed quite a bit. People brought it up during the draft quite a bit, and obviously I was like, well, it's kind of sucks. I feel bad about it, but like, I realize how hard that is to do. Just remember every Pokemon, kind of know what it does, and like tier it based off of that. And I definitely made some mistakes.
Oh,
There's some
yeah.
things I missed out on. Like, we have a rule that you can Terra Pokemon 10 points and under into any
Mhm.
type. I left like Armarouge and Garganacl in that tier, and I
It
feel like that
happens.
was a mistake. But like, it
Well,
happens.
you know what I say? Sometimes I say this about the tier list. Every league's gonna have it slightly different. Like it's okay to sometimes have a couple gems down there and let someone take advantage of it because it leads to funnier moments in the season of a
Yeah.
little bit of sauce and everything. As long as people are good sports about it. Ultimately, look, we always want to be perfect, but that's not realistic. And with
Yeah.
tiering, I tell everyone I have no problem with any questions about anything. If I have something tiered a certain way, I should be able to defend it. And there's things that we had like mistiered even in our season one, and we looked through it a lot. And there's Cinderace we had at 20. Now, Adim and I both have had so much success with Cinderace in Paldea decks with post at that time it was post home Paldea decks or whatever. We had so much success with that mon, and other people we saw had so much success with it. We're like, yeah, this is obviously a 20 pointer. But it was just like so much biasy on our end because it was
Mhm.
like we had too much success with that mon that it was just like we were getting like 13 kills, 15 kills in an 8-game season. It was like one of the kill leaders in another league. It was just like, oh, obviously this mon is so highly tiered. It's still broken, even though it can't. Its ability got nerfed. And again, is that a miss? 100% miss. But
Yeah.
ultimately, Dim drafted it, and he still did good with it. That's the problem. Like he still did good with it. It was just like we still have to lower it, but it's learning lessons. There's no being perfect
For
at this.
sure.
So Emily, I would say to like close things out, a couple things. You talked about starting. You're in season 2 of TBA. I remember early on with season 1, you didn't have as many applicants early on. You're like, I don't think we're gonna run, 2 divisions, or we're not gonna have enough or whatever to run as many divisions as you thought. And I was like, don't worry about it. It's gonna come. Like these applications just come in bunches, it feels like. And then you ended up running 3 divisions for your first season. And now, even with some of the personal stuff that you had to go through during season 1, you're back in running season 2. How's that been so far?
It's been pretty good. We finished the draft. The week 1 is kind of underway right now as of this. As when we're talking, I don't know when this is going
Mhm.
up, but
Probably
I
tomorrow
think it's
or
really
tonight.
cool that like we didn't have like we had definitely had quite a few people who didn't come back for season 2, and I feel bad about that because I definitely feel like on my part I dropped the ball a bit in season 1, and I didn't
Mhm,
create a positive enough experience for them to want to come back. But like I don't fault them for that. I am just gonna embrace and try to do better with the new people who joined, and
mhm,
we ended up getting, after a slow start with the applications, we ended up once again getting enough for 3 divisions. This time with 14 coaches per division
mhm,
instead of 12. And I'm just very excited to try to do better this time around, and
mhm.
to just kind of create something half as good as what you guys have done with the SDBL.
We're not. We just try to do our best. All you can do is your best. You have a couple people on your mod team. I think you have some good people there. I don't know. Skippy as much, but you created the doc with him though, right? If I'm not
Yeah, Skippy
mistaken.
did the most of the legwork on the dock. It originated as a Paldea Dex docs and kind of adapted it to
Mhm,
a Nat Dex doc, and that was a lot of work involved in that. And like, he was very patient with me figuring out the Terra rules and stuff like that because I wanted to do something unique and different because I didn't like how we handled it in season one. Um,
yeah, you tried something different in season one. I think the Terra rules this season are actually really, really good. I love your Terra rules right
I'm
now.
a big fan of it. Yeah, I like for people who aren't in the league and don't know, it's one high tier Terra who can Terra into one type. We have quite a few extensive bans with that. Like all the 18-point mons cannot Terra. Like that's just a
Mhm,
non-starter. And we have a few like Dragonite and Volcarona that obviously can't Terra. But
mhm,
then beyond that, you have one low tier Pokemon that can Terra into any type,
mhm.
and the two of them combined can't be more than 25 points.
With the Terra attacks on them too.
With the
So,
Terra decks, yes.
right.
So like you're paying to terrestrialize a Pokemon, and like it costs more to terrestrialize a higher tier Pokemon than does a lower tier one. So technically, you can get like more points for Pokemon
Mhm.
if you use lower tier Terras.
Yeah, I love the rule personally. I think it's gonna really pop off. For you guys this season. I think people will have a lot of fun with it. I mean, I when I saw that rule, I was unsure, and once I like got the clarification on it when you explained it to me, I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, dude, this is I love this rule so much more than I like it better than drafting a Terra type. I like it better than what you guys did in season one." And honestly, it's probably better than I still don't even know if we're running the best Terra rule on this. You know, with you get up to a certain amount of mons total points wise, and then you
Mhm.
give them a stab and a non-stab. I don't know what the best rule is overall for this, but I really love that rule personally, and I think it's gonna be really big for you guys this season. You also have Arminius, I think, on your mod team.
Arminius is great. Arminius is awesome. Arminius is
I think
very
another
helpful.
I think that's a big get for you guys on the mod team. I think that's
He
really
stepped in towards the end of season one with
Mhm.
his division's doc, and
Yeah.
just did a great job keeping that updated when I wasn't mentally capable of like
Mhm.
keeping all three divisions up to date. And Gojo was kind of busy, and like
Mhm.
we kind of had him help out at the end of that season. And then when I was looking for people to help out with season two, he volunteered, and I was really thankful for that. And he's been a huge help so far, and he'll continue to be one. So I'm really looking forward to the rest of that season in TVA with that mod team and with everyone who joined, and I'm pretty happy with how things turned out because I was like thinking about deleting the league like
I
three
remember you
weeks
told
before
me
I
that.
decided to start it back up.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember that when you spoke to me about it a little while back, and I wasn't sure. I don't. At that, I tell people, I pretty much tell everyone who wants to start up a league who asks me for advice, and I get a decent amount of people who ask. Um, I say, yeah, you could do it, whatever. You could use our doc even as a template. I genuinely don't care. Um, but all I ask is just make something for yourself, and go, fix it up, make it look like your league. Don't look like our league. Look like your own league.
Right.
Um, and I think, and again, I try to give people advice. I remember Jack also was Jack O'Lantern. He's someone in our server. I met him through in Kebab's league before, and he was asking me like he wanted to promote his league in the servers, and he was asking me what he should write. And I told him, and I pretty much like I kind of wrote a basic script out for him, and I was like, look, the way you're saying it is the way everyone says it, relatively
Mhm.
boring and oh, we're running a NatDex, yada, yada, and that's how everyone does it, right? That's how we did it in our first season. But I
Yeah.
was like, maybe write it this way, and we like tweaked it a little bit. We workshop something, and it was something that was more like a little bit comedic, a little bit, funnier, something that would like. And he was running like a duos league too, first
Mhm.
season. Like, let's try to incorporate that component into this. And he put something together, whatever. He ended up getting like 40 something applicants like relatively quickly. And he was like, dude, how the hell did that happen? I was like, look, it pops more when someone reads something that's different, You want to make yourself unique some way, right? You're gonna run a pretty generic format, make yourself unique somewhere else then,
Mhm.
We're
Yeah.
not reinventing the wheel here. We're all running pretty much some version of NatDex, Paldea Dex, whatever. It's all kind of the same. you have to find something else to pop. And, I was really happy for him when he was able to run his divisions, I think it was. So really, really, that was really cool. Is there anything you want to close out with ultimately in terms
Yeah,
of,
I think the
anything
last thing
you
is
want to say?
just like talking about the TVA just a little bit more. Just
Mhm,
kind of want to give a huge shout out to everyone who was in that server because like mentioned a few minutes ago I was thinking about deleting it. I was like, season one went horribly. Everyone had a miserable time. No one enjoyed it. Um,
mhm,
and then randomly, as I'm thinking about all this, going through a rough time, Giraffe Rig posts the long delayed bulletproof power rankings in the server, and people were like interacting and getting excited about it and like reminiscing about the season, and like it made it clear to me that like that was all in my head. People were having fun. I was making up in my head that people weren't having fun, but they were. And like I think that's kind of really important to keep in mind for running a league. Like all you can do is what you do, and I think
mhm.
measuring yourself against other leagues is not always great, but like it's good to aspire to do something fun and enjoyable for everybody. Like, that's what we're all here for at the end of the day.
Exactly. I think you have the right idea and you have the right mindset. Hopefully everything's good in your personal this season, because that's always number one. I'm excited for your league this season. I know Aldem's there. He's going to be the person I root for the most.
Right.
I hope he could get a title and bring one, bring one for himself. But there's a lot of good people in that division. I mean, you've cultivated a pretty good group of people. Like I recognize a lot of the names, and there's a lot of good people in there. So I'm excited for
Yeah.
this season for you. I feel bad I couldn't play. Mostly, I'm not doing as many leagues right now in general, and I was already had some leagues as
Yeah,
in
you
my
gotta avoid
plate, and
burnout.
dude, I've been trying to. That's been the biggest thing, right? Avoid doing. I'm not in the 5, 6 leagues at a time mode anymore. I'm in the let's 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 do things for this league as much as possible, and I'm gonna join, 1 or 2 leagues at a time. Like right now, I'm doing Rise Diabetic Rise League, which is a small like friends only league. Like I'm one. I think I'm the only new person in that league this season, and the other league I'm doing is Spear Pillars doing like a duos league. It's only 6 games long. So them and me pretty much split those duties for that league, and that's pretty much all I'm doing at this time. Oh, and technically, I'm finishing up a season elsewhere, in the where it's in the semis right now. So that'll either end this week if I lose, or next week if I make it.
Well, good
We'll
luck with
see.
that.
But that's like a
Hope you
custom.
win.
That's a custom mons, like dude. The 1900 mons on their dock. They have like a lot of custom mons. They also combined
Oh,
insurgents, uranium cap. It's kind of a, it's almost a headache to think about, but it's also been kind of
yeah.
fun because there's been some trolly things. So we'll see with that. But
Well, it's been
yeah,
nice
man.
talking to you. Enjoyed this a lot.
No, I enjoyed it too. It's a really fun conversation. You're one of my favorite people in the community. You're one of my favorite people to mock with. I always find it impressive to play against you because you always give me a really good look, and I try to respect you whenever you ask for a mock and give you a good look also.
I
I try to
appreciate
build
that.
legitimate. And we've only had one real battle, but we've had God knows how many mock battles, and
Right.
those are always fun for me. I promise you, they're such joys.
Thanks for everything, Byron.
Absolutely, Emily. Well, thank you, everyone, and have a great day, everyone. Bye.